Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. Today I'm going to show you how to make this slider card. You'll have to excuse me, my desk is a little bit crammed with stuff at the minute. But I've already recorded this video once and had a bit of a glitch on my phone, so I just wanted to show you how to do it so I can get it uploaded. So if I just bring the card up a little beetle's a bit on the wonk, and you can see as you pull the tab along, your Christmas message appears and the car drives along. I'm going to make it slightly different this time. This was my sort of prototype, if you like. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm using the Coming Home stamp set and dies, matching dies. They're part of a bundle. They're actually, well, they are a bundle. They're actually part of the Trimming the Town suite. So you can buy the stamps and dies as a bundle. You can buy the stamps on their own, obviously, or if you purchase the whole suite, which I'm just checking in my catalogue is $69.75. You get the stamps, the dies, some lovely little embellishments, some ribbon, the Trimming the Town Designer Series paper, which is 12 by 12. And as an added bonus, there is £2.50 from each sale of the stamp set that goes towards homeless charity. Actually, no, I correct myself. It's donated to a charity devoted to adoption, foster care and infertility, which actually is even better. That is a subject close to my heart. So don't forget that if you're doing good work, if you purchase that. So today we are going to use from these images the little beetle, this little house up here, and this smaller Christmas tree. Okay, so I'm starting with a Pretty Peacock base, which is a standard UK C6 size, so that's half of an A4 sheet cut across the middle and then scored and folded in half again. Obviously if you're in America it'll be a slightly different size, but I don't think I've got any people from America watching over here. It'd be lovely to have you. I have then used a piece of Pear Pizzazz and I've embossed that with the Evergreen Forest embossing folder, which is also in the Autumn Winter catalogue. Gives this really nice raised effect, really pretty. And what I'm going to do is just stick that onto the front of my card base. I actually like it both sides. There is a right and a wrong way, obviously, like there is with all embossing folders, but it's actually quite attractive both sides. So right, okay, so I'm just putting some Tombow on that. I find with embossed pieces of paper it's far easier to excuse me if I'm off screen, far easier to get embossed panels to stick with wet glue, although I have to say our Stampin' Seal Plus is not bad at all. So that's just, sorry, I just realised I'm out of shot, but I need to be able to see to line it up. Okay, so that's that on there. So that's that part done. So we can put that to one side for a minute. Now I have gone ahead and stamped the car, the tree, and the little house. And I've coloured those in with my Stampin' Blends. As I said, there are a set of dies, but if you don't have the dies, then they're not too bad to fussy cut these little things. So that's those. So we're going to pop those to one side as well. We'll come back to those in a minute. Now to make this part of the card, where the car slides along, I've used the bigger sort of slope die, if you like, with the trees on it from the Coming Home bundle dies. Now with a slider card you need to make sure that you get it the right side in order to be able to put the mechanism in, and I'm showing you this one because this isn't the right size. So it needs to be fairly deep, and a general rule of thumb if you're making a slider card and you're using foam strips is to measure the width of your foam strips, double that because you need to, add in the size of the slider element. So on this card it's this little banner here, and then just add a little tiny bit more for wiggle room. So what I've done is my sticky strips are 1/2 centimetre wide. So obviously 2 of those is 1 centimetre. My strip is 2 centimetres wide. So that's 3 centimetres. So what I've actually done is made sure that my lowest tree on this section is at least 4 centimetres, and that gives us plenty of wiggle room. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to do the mechanism. So there is a right and a wrong side with these dies, because I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there is a line along here where the die sits on your paper. If you turn that over, just get it, it makes it sort of a, well, it picks up off your plates basically on the Big Shot, and mine are quite worn, so it's quite untidy that side, so you really wouldn't want to do it that side. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting our sticky strips on, and I can hear you shouting, but you haven't cut a hole to slide it along. And I haven't, and there's a reason for that. So now I thought I had some Stampin' Up sticky strips. In fact, I was convinced I had some Stampin' Up sticky strips. If I have, I don't know where they are. They're doing a good job at evading me. So what we're going to do, we're going to start at the bottom. So basically I've had to purchase some non-Stampin' Up sticky strips. So make sure if you are using a different brand of sticky strip that you measure them. So what I've done, I've put, going along the bottom, I'm having to use a bit and a piece because mine aren't long enough, and I'm pretty sure the Stampin' Up ones are wider. When I designed this card, I would have sworn that I had Stampin' Up sticky strips, which I'm sure ours are longer. Anyway, so please forgive me. Right, so what we've done is we have stuck a whole one and a part of one in a line along the bottom. Can you see that? Along the bottom. So what we're then going to do is we're then going to get our strip, which we know we're going to stamp on, and I'm going to sit that in there, which will then show me where I need to put my next strip. Just excuse me for a minute, I'm just going to put my glasses on. Find it helps if I can actually see what I'm doing. So with the next strip, obviously keep the backing on these. With the next strip, you want to go slightly above where your cardstock piece is going to lay, and try and get it straight. Again, I'm working with my head behind the camera, so it's not that easy, and my glasses have just decided to completely fog up. Okay, so if I lift that up to the camera, you can see that we've got the bottom strip we stuck on first, and then we've got that top strip, and sat in there with a little bit of wiggle room. I don't know if you can see that, it's got a little bit of wiggle room, not too much, otherwise it won't pull out straight, is our strip that we're going to put our sentiment on. So I'm just going to move that out of the way for the minute. You might have noticed that my scissors have got a black blade. Now, our Stampin' Up snips are the best scissors in the world, but they aren't sticky resistant. These are Teflon coated scissors. And that basically stops your snips from getting gunked up from cutting sticky stuff. If that does happen to you, a top tip is to just sit them in a little jar of rubbing alcohol for a little while, and then just give the blades a rub, and the rubbing alcohol will dissolve the glue. Excuse me, I'm just going to have to clean my glasses so I can actually see. The rubbing alcohol will dissolve the glue, and you should be able to get it off quite easily. If there's any residual glue stuck on the blades, just give it a rub with a bit of kitchen roll or J-cloth or something like that, and then just dry them off. Okay, I unfortunately, before I bought my Teflon coated scissors, let mine get so bad my husband had to actually take them to work and heat them up for me to get all the sticky off, and open them because they were jammed shut. Okay, so now we've got our piece with our 2 sticky strips, which has made our channel. So you might end up with a shot of my head at this point. What we're going to do now, just if you can hear rummaging, I'm looking for my craft knife, which I dumped in with my blends. Oh, I picked a blend up, not the craft knife. I'm not going to cut a very good slip with that, are we? Right, so what I'm doing now is I'm bringing in a craft knife and a ruler, a metal ruler. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually cut the slit. So what we want is for our little beetle, or whatever you're using, if you're using a different set to make this slider card, the principle is the same. We need our little beetle to sort of sit along the line as he drives, or she drives along. The reason there's a red beetle on here is because my daughter has a red beetle. So when I saw this stamp set, despite the fact that I loved it anyway, I had to buy it. Okay, so he's going to slide along that slit. So what we've got to do is cut it in here. Now, I'm just going to grab a cutting mat actually, because I laminate my grid paper, and that way I can just wipe it over with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, to clean any glue or residue of ink off, but I don't consequently want to cut it. So I'm just going to bring in a self-healing cutting mat, and what we're going to do is we are going to cut along the middle. Now obviously not all the way along, otherwise you're going to have two separate pieces of cardstock, and that's not what we want. So I start roughly level with the first tree and go along roughly to the middle tree in the 3. Now if you do go a little bit too far, depending on where you're going to stick your house, obviously that will end up as a stopper. So that's our groove cut. Remember to put the cover back on your craft knife. So let's just remove that, and I'll just show you. You can see here, look, I've cut through the groove. Now to make the mechanism that's going to pull our car along, we just need a piece of scrap cardstock. Now from where I've cut out the house, the car and the tree, I've just saved a little piece of scrap cardstock. Now no one's going to see this, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to cut a tab. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be perfect or any particular size, because you can trim it down. It just needs to be a rectangle of cardstock. So let's just take that bit out of there. Okay, so this is what we've got. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to stamp a greeting onto our piece that's going to pull along, ready for when we assemble. So there aren't any sentiments. There's lots of images, no sentiments in this stamp set. So I'm going to pinch one from another set. I did find that Itty Bitty Christmas, all of the sentiments in there fitted, but just because it's on my desk, I'm pinching a sentiment out of Snowflake Wishes, which I'm going to be using in my next couple of videos, so you'll be able to see that. Excuse me again, I'm just off camera lining up my sentiment on my block. Now my usual tip would be to use your grid paper, lay your sentiment stamping side down on the grid paper, make sure it's along one of the lines. I'll do it there so you can see. I can't actually see that this is level, but hopefully you get the gist. And then put your block on top, and then hopefully you should always get it level. Now we've used a lot of green, so I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz to match our embossed tree layer for my greeting, and hopefully this will just about fit. So I haven't actually used these stamps yet, they are brand new, so let's hope they stamp properly. Right, and I'm just going to have to sort of get myself off camera for a second so I can actually get this straight. So because it's about the same size as the piece of cardstock, so I will slide it back in there so you can see. Now I've lined it up. Okay, so that's our sentiment, and I've got a little bit of a glitch there from the end of the S, but I'll sort that out in a minute. Okay, so let's put that ink pad away. Okay, so now to make our tab. So we've got our split in our card front. We've got our piece of card which we're going to pull out with the greeting on. So if you sit that back in the channel just to check that it fits. Okay, mine is going to have part of the greeting showing, which is fine because then people will know they've got to pull it. Okay, but ordinarily I really should have stamped that a little bit further back so you've got a plain piece there, but we'll live with that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take this little rectangle we had and we're going to feed it through. Can you see? I've just fed that through the slit. Now if you turn it over, you don't want it to be really hardly buttered up against the sticky strip. If you've used one sticky strip and it's perfectly straight, then you'll get away with that. But because I've had to use two pieces, we're going to put that there. And then I'm going to grab a Stampin' Dimensional. Now, our Stampin' Dimensionals are a hexagon shape, so make sure you get the bottom square against the bottom of your piece of cardstock, like that. So can you see? I've put that on there. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to get our strip of paper, take off the backing on the dimensional, Make sure you've got your greeting up the right way when you do this. And then what we're going to do is lay it back in the groove and attach that to the dimensional. And I've done mine sort of more or less level with the edge of the card. So when we pull, hopefully you can see that, when we pull, our tab will move across. Now obviously it's way too big for the card, but that's fine. We'll trim that down in a minute. So now we've done that piece, what we need to do is actually attach it to our card front. So I'm going to bring that card back in again, and I'm going to take off the backing for my foam strips. Okay, again, I'm sorry I'm off camera, but I just need to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've taken the back off, so that's tacky. So don't forget, once you actually put this down, it's stuck. Okay, so I'm just going to use a couple of mini dimensionals. Oh, see, I'm getting stuck to it myself. A couple of mini dimensionals just on the trees, just to support those when we stick it on so they're not flapping around. Okay, I've just put them on the bigger trees and I think that will be fine. Okay, and I'm just taking the back ends off those as well. This is probably the only tricky bit. Okay, so let's bring our card front back in, and what we need to do is we need to line up the corners with the corners of our embossed piece. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing, and just make sure it's straight. If you hold your strip that's going to pull along as well, make sure that doesn't come out of that gully, because otherwise you'll stick it to your card. And then hopefully I haven't done what I've just told you not to do. There we go. So you might need to give it a little tug to get it started. So that is our slider mechanism there working. So all we need to do now is to put the bits and pieces on that we have previously cut and coloured. So I'm going to start with the car. Now I'm going to stick the tree just to the roof of the car, because we want it to look like it's being pulled along on the roof. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that there. And what that does as well is it gives us a little bit more height on the car when we come to cut this down. Now we want our wheels to run sort of just on top of that slit, so I can see that I've got to cut my piece that the car is going to attach down sort of there. So if you sort of offer your car up to it, and then you should be able to see, and carefully slide your snips in and trim it down. Okay, then I'm going to put a dimensional on the back of the car with the tree attached, and again I'm using a bigger dimensional to hold it firmly. And you just need to make sure that your piece that you've used here is wide enough that the dimensional is not going to stick to the back of your card, otherwise it won't move. Okay, so yeah, and that's exactly what I've done. I've stuck it on too high, too low. So we're just gonna, well, the dimensional's too low on the car and too high on my piece of paper. And you know what, Stampin' Dimensionals normally come off really easily, but just because I'm filming this, it's not gonna, is it? So just so you know, everybody messes up. So let's just pull the rest of that off and we'll try again. So we need to stick it higher up, lower down, sorry. Ignore me, not higher up. Okay, so that should do it. So if you're not sure, don't press it down firmly, because then you normally can lift them back up. Okay, and obviously we're not going to see this piece of paper, so it doesn't really matter that I've torn the surface off. Okay, so we're just going to pop that on there. Just going to lift that up before I press it down firmly and make sure that we are clear. Yep, we're clear this time. Okay, so that then pulls our little car along. There you go, off he goes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our house as the stopper. So we need to put a couple of dimensionals onto the back of the house. So I'm just going to sort of do a couple in a row, so one at an angle, so we've got the point on that roof up there. Okay, and then this is going to act as our stopper. We're going to pop our little house there. Okay, and that's the card made. So all you need to do is punch a hole in the end here. I would show you how to do that and thread some ribbon through, but my hole punch has decided to break on me this morning, so can't do that. But punch a hole in there. Hopefully you've listened to the video and stamped your greeting a little bit further back. This one was a bit bigger than I thought. And then you can add some glitter or some textured sort of snow, chunky glitter, fine glitter, whatever you want to add on to the trees and along that snow slope is what I did on mine. I actually used shimmery white for this piece. You just can't see it on the video, so it would catch the light nicely. And I'm going to add a little bit of shine up there. Now, this isn't available this year, I don't think, but this is Shimmery Crystal Effects that we had last year. It just happens to be on my desk, so I'm just going to add a little bit along the ridge line on the chimney and a little bit on the windowsills there. And then I'm going to just go along on the tree. So I'm basically catching the tree and the car where snow would land if it was snowing. So I'm just going round. Beetles have sticking out wings, so that would definitely catch the snow. And then I'm just going to add a little bit onto the trees. I'm not making the neatest job of this, but it will settle and dry, and then it'll be fine. Just don't lean on it. Okay, there we go. So that is Shimmery Crystal Effects, but you could use glitter, you could use shimmery embossing powder, whatever you felt you needed to do. Okay, so there we go. So there's our finished card, just apart from the hole and the ribbon, which I'll add later, and it drives along quite nicely. If you wanted to, you could always add a couple more of the houses. So the house, we've used this one as the smallest one, but if you were to stamp and cut out another couple, you could have sort of a little village up here, or maybe one of the couple of the other trees. But there you go, that shows you the basic mechanism for making a slider card without using a punch. Hope you found that interesting. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, I'd be really grateful if you would click the subscribe button and then click on the bell so you'll get notified every time I upload another video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.